Welcome to another of our interviews with local actors working with the VML Arts charity. Ryan McDonald has played an array of different characters in VML drama productions, and I wanted to ask him about the difficulties and approaches to character acting. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Before we begin, I'm interested to know if you always wanted to be an actor, or if it was something you fell into.
I think almost in a way it was something that was always there, but I wasn't necessarily conscious of it. In the sense that I used to want to be things like I was the dinosaur kid at school, so I wanted to be a paleontologist and things like that. But I would always be really fascinated by stories in books and films and so on and so forth. So I'd always kind of be really involved in them, and I think that just kind of developed eventually to the point where I realized, oh yeah, that's a thing that you can actually do. You can actually kind of live out these stories by performing them. So it came about quite early, but it wasn't always there, but it was kind of boiled down a little bit, and it came out early.
Well, I first saw you in a Nolte Hilton production of Shakespeare's A Winter's Tale. And kind of knew I was looking for someone who had a natural ability because having been involved in theatre most of my life. How did the role of Florizel come about for you?
Well, it's a bit of a story really, because they came over, Louise Nolte, Jacqueline Pilton, came over to the youth theatre that I was a part of at the time at the Brindley, and because they wanted various different young parts to be in the show, so they carried out auditions. So they came in one week and they said, look, could everyone who wants to be a part of this, obviously it'll be a great experience and all that kind of thing, and they had professional actors in the show, so it was a great mix of like community and professional theatre, and basically said, if you want to be a part of it, try and learn just a brief little Shakespeare monologue to see how you deal with Shakespeare, because obviously we're talking young people in, like, I think can't have been older than 17, 16, 17 at the time. Most other people in the group were younger, and obviously that that can be a challenge for people. So they said prepare a short monologue of Shakespeare, and then at next week's youth theatre session they'd take us out, those who wanted to, and have us read it, do a bit of an audition. So did that, and then shortly afterwards, obviously they got in touch with me and said, yeah, you've got the part of Florizel, so here's a like rehearsal schedule and everything like that. So
was that your first sort of main stage theatre production?
On the main stage of the Brindley, yeah.
At all, really? You don't?
Yeah, it kind of was at all, really, actually. Everything else that I'd done had been smaller stuff within the context of that youth theatre group. So like every, I guess, term, if you like, or every couple of terms, would do a bit of more of a share to like families and stuff than actual performances. So I guess, yeah, that was kind of the first proper one.
And I've kind of known you since then, I suppose. And our first collaboration was in the VML production of the Madness musical, Our House. Did you enjoy being in a musical?
I actually had a great time doing Our House. I really, really did. And I wasn't necessarily expecting to enjoy it quite as much as I did, because I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as a musical person. I mean, I enjoy musicals. I enjoy singing and whatever else, but I wouldn't necessarily say that other people would enjoy my singing and whatever else. So yeah, I was kind of not hesitant, but cautious from like a confidence perspective about getting into that. But I was just like, I'm gonna throw myself into it. I'm gonna see how it goes, see how I like it, and yeah, it was just great. And then obviously it all caps off when you get there on the stage and you're doing all these songs and all of that. And I think the energy to the musical kind of performances unlike a standard kind of piece of drama, standard piece of theatre. So it was really, yeah, it was really high energy. Really.
But from your point of view, you had one of the most dramatic scenes in the whole show. I recall the death scene when you have a go at the lead for, because you're more protective of his mother at that stage than he is, and she's died in a fire. And I think that was when I think most of the people around us in VML took notice of you at that point, because that was a really dark part of the musical. Played very well by you, I have to say. I mean, I'm not trying to sort of blow smoke, but it really was a standout part of the musical. Right. So since then, of course, we've done so much together since then, and you've had a number of leads and secondaries. What's your favourite production to date that you've done with VML?
See, you always ask me this in standard conversations, and I never know what to say.
But this isn't a standard conversation. This is for the people.
No, of course not. Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like you say, we've done so much, and it's all been fantastic. So to pick a couple of things for me personally, I'd have to say Hamlet, because for the obvious reasons that everyone already knows, Hamlet's just such a probably the most iconic thing that you can do in theatre, and it was great to really get stuck into some proper meaty Shakespeare, if you like. And of Mice and Men was really good to do as well, because the just the story and the themes behind it and the way that works out with how the characters treat each other and everything just made for a really good story. And well, there's a reason obviously why that as a book is so iconic as it is, and it's because it's for those reasons, and it was just great to get that on a stage and explore all of that.
I think from my point of view as well, as producer, wanting to do these plays again for obvious reasons, because they're classics and should be preserved for future generations. But I think that what we needed in Of Mice and Men more than anything was a rapport between the two lead characters. And I think you and Darren Gibbons actually found that through the one-to-one rehearsals that you did. You put a lot of effort into that role, and so did he.
Yeah, we both did. We spent a lot of extra nights, kind of just sat on the floor, basically just going through the lines and just chatting away and all that kind of thing. We really built up that kind of relationship because we both knew it was obviously central to the entire piece. So
yeah, is it your ambition to go into television and film, or do you see yourself sort of really sticking in the future with stage and live theatre, which to me is probably your strength? I'm not saying that you wouldn't have a strength in film. What I'm saying though is, as somebody who's worked with a lot of people over the years, you tend to absorb sort of dialogue and scripts better than anybody else, and that's not necessarily called for in film acting, is it? You can sort of read it line by line.
Not in the same way. You get you'll get your sides at the beginning of the day for filming and stuff. So obviously you'll have like that scene basically for the day. So in the sense of learning it and preparing for it, it's slightly different. But no, I would gladly put myself in whichever medium really, because I watch a lot of television, a lot of films, and that's only really gotten better as a medium as the years have gone on, if you like. So there's, as I say, the kind of central thing for me is exploring these stories and these characters and all that kind of thing, and that's what I love about it. So I'd like to do as much in any of it really.
So that brings me neatly to my next point really. It's in that I think these interviews that we're doing whilst we're in lockdown here can be informative as well as personal, and I want to talk to you really in some depth about character acting. Do you use any personal skills to find the characters you're creating, or do you take the lead from other actors? Now, we've spoken about this before in terms of the diversity between the Frankenstein creature Lenny in Of Mice and Men, and of course Hamlet. Do you know, how do you create the characters for yourself?
Uh, I wouldn't say there's any one particular technique that is kind of 100% method really for me. But that's just me. Everyone's different, and what I tend to do is I tend to take inspiration from a lot of places. Because people are characters as human beings, just as they are, and that character that each person is has come about from their whole lives of different experiences and their environments, and all that kind of culmination of their lives makes them who they are. So it's important, I think, to get little bits from just all over the place for when you're creating a character, because people are so complicated, even in the small little ways that you don't necessarily think about. They're all adding up to make a character. So I might say, for a certain character, I might pick a certain feature from a character in a film and say, oh yeah, that's character at this point kind of thinks in a similar way, so I can take inspiration from that. And in this piece, in this, this person on the street or a family member or friend or whatever reacts in this kind of way, and I'll take a little bit of that from that, and you just kind of like jigsaw together a person.
I think in a lot of instances, a lot of the character traits are written by the writer anyway. So of course, George in Of Mice and Men is really bossy. So Lenny has to be. He looks out for him. So the bossiness is written in there. The frustration that George feels about putting up with Lenny is written in there. But there has to be a subtext or or something inside you that makes the character uniquely yours as well. And we hear that cliche all the time in talent shows and in rehearsals. You made the character your own, and doing that whilst maintaining truth that the writer wants to maintain is an art, I think, that people need to learn in drama.
Yeah, like I say, that's kind of what I mean when I'm saying the little bits that you take from here and there. Those are the pieces that you can use to make it your own, because obviously if you're working with a good script, as obviously the Of Mice and Men one really is, then most of what you need for the kind of building blocks, the foundation of that character is already there, obviously. So that you know what to look for when you're looking for other things, and it might not even be when you're looking. You might just be watching a film in your free time anyway for the sake of watching it, and you think, oh, that's that's exactly like what's happening in this scene in this show. So that character, yeah, I can, you put two and two together there, and you just kind of naturally, it always works away in the back of your head. And
So has any
it's
character
about
to date
building.
then caused you any problems?
Well, problems is an interesting way to say it. I'd say every character probably has their own unique challenges to it. So, for instance, one of the more recent things we've done, Masquerade, was a fantastic character, and obviously a real one in many regards. And that, for me, part of the difficulty with that was trying to, because there's a lot of narration in that show between the scenes from the character I played, Mike, and I found that challenging at first, because it was a very matter of fact conversation, and you probably remember, I asked a couple of times, like, how are we looking at these little narration monologues between the scenes, like how do we approach them so that I could get into my head how, as a character, that fitted into everything else, and as a medium, if you like, putting the narration in. So that's one example of but again, I wouldn't call it a problem, because it's it's a problem in the sense of problem solving, where it's like interesting and satisfying to like work through, and the same applies to the creature in Frankenstein was similar, because you had to think, okay, this is a reanimated corpse essentially that's got the brain of one man, the heart of another, in the body of a third guy, and he's been brought to life by this lightning strike, and he doesn't understand anything. How does he move? Like, how does he respond to all these things? And it's that kind of there's always a challenge of thought process. So you know, you always think about these things. So I think it's, you know, it's a great exercise in empathy, really, because you always have to put yourself in their shoes and
I
try and
think my
figure out
next
how.
question's been asked really in that, which was your most challenging character, because I think really with the Frankenstein creature, when I cast Frankenstein, I half expected you to assume you were Henry or Victor or whoever. I thought, right, let's put you in something completely different. Because if you think of Hamlet and George, the dialogue alone is immense, and that's one of your strengths. It's more physical acting doing the creature than it is actually speaking, and that was your challenge for that, which obviously you met. Do you find it more challenging to do contemporary classics or Shakespeare? Which is more challenging for you?
You know, I'm not really sure thinking about it, because I think Shakespeare has all of its stuff like laid out for you, kind of thing, like almost more so than the other kind of more modern examples that we've already talked about. Shakespeare really lays it out, because you've got, you know, in a lot of cases, if it's in verse, you know, the rhythm of the speeches and the basically the emphasis of where you're putting your words and everything like that is often already there for you, at the very least as a guideline. So you've got that there, and because it's if you are doing verse, it's in that more kind of poetic language. That's quite easy to learn for me personally, because it's almost like learning the lyrics to a song. You know, it's kind of,
It's that kind of
you know what sounds right.
Yeah.
You know,
the iambic pentameters and all this. But the thing
exactly.
is, it's so easy to get it wrong as well. If you're not there to Shakespeare, it's so easy to get it wrong. And we kind of witnessed that with Hamlet, with some of the people who weren't really au fait with Shakespeare, having to not just explain to them what they're saying, because the language barrier is real, but also how they have to say it. That most people, not most people, a few people didn't realize they were actually reciting rhyming couplets until you actually told them that that's what it was, and then they got the tempo and the rhythm of the piece. But so, okay, let me just move you on a bit. Do you have any advice for jobbing actors trying to get not character, not so much character, but just trying to sort of create? What I'm trying to say here is, and I had the question written down, but I want to take it a bit further, because in my opinion, an actor to embody the persona of someone else is the greatest challenge, of course. But as a jobbing actor, people who want to do character work solely, and I know I've heard that from lots of people I've worked with in the past, I want to be a character actor, I want to, I loved Alistair Sim, I loved... Have you got any advice on how to approach that? I mean, where are you going with this sort of thing?
I would say, to be honest, the best advice that I could probably give is to say to people to try and find their own way, in the sense that, you can obviously listen to what a bunch of other people say and all that kind of thing. But if I'm sat here talking about taking little bits and bobs from here, there, and everywhere, the odd character in a film and that bit in a play and so on and so forth, you could be sat there as a aspiring actor yourself, listening to that and thinking, nah, that makes no sense to me. Like that just doesn't work for how I process that, and that's perfectly fine. There's like you said, it's an art. There's not necessarily any wrong answers, certainly not in the process of how you get there. So you got to try a few different kind of techniques of finding character and learning lines and all that kind of thing. See what works for you. And oftentimes, as I said before, it won't be one particular method for every character every time, because sometimes it's easy to say, okay, the importance of being earnest, to play Algernon, I'll think of as a basic kind of foundation of the character, he's just really careless, he's just out for a laugh, and I'll build from there, and I'll just think, yeah, if I'm almost, not quite, but almost myself on stage, just having a laugh, and then just make that about what's actually happening in the scene, that's really easy to view the character as an extension of yourself, as to say, this is me if I was, a super rich posh guy who's, doesn't need to do anything all day and can literally just have a laugh about everything.
Mm.
And that
And
was
be
great fun to
bloody
do, and it was
infuriating as well.
exactly, but it was so fun to fall into because of all that. So that just kind of came about. Whereas, like you say, with the creature and things like that, and it's almost more of a academic process. You kind of got to really spend time thinking about what you want to show and how you want to show it, essentially, how you want to put it out, and then it kind of comes across that way. So as I say, there's no one way, and you just gotta you figure it out as you go, really. That's kind of how it's worked for me anyway.
Can I ask you how easy you find accents? Dialect.
I always kind of, everyone says this, I mean, it's such a cliche, I feel like, whenever you have anyone like the Graham Norton show and they go, oh, you do a lot of accents, and they go, oh, I just always did accents when I was a kid, but it's kind of true. Like, I always used to just mess about and say odd things, and I guess that kind of came into an actual thing. But yeah, if you're willing to make a fool of yourself and have a laugh and do a stupid voice, then that's the start. And then from there, you actually, like, you can do your research on it and stuff like that. There's a wonderful website that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like the International Dialects of English database or something along those lines. But it's got loads and loads of examples of different accents from all over the world, where they're essentially just like reading like a set block of text, all these same people, same text, and then they just briefly talk about themselves a little bit, and you can kind of watch that and just like take in how they're speaking and all that kind of thing.
Maybe I should listen to that then, because I've never been able to do accents. Just never have been, and I've taken a role in Up Pompeii when everything's back to normal, and I want to try and find a different character with a different accent for it. So maybe I'll check that database out.
I would definitely check it out. Absolutely, I'd 100% recommend it. It was very useful for me multiple times, and I don't doubt that it'll continue to be. But again, also, it's one of those things you can really just listen to things when you're watching a show on Netflix or whatever, and just listen to the way that someone's speaking, and then you just kind of conjure it up, I guess. I think I've probably just got a decent memory for that kind of thing. But
do you have any heroes in acting? Who's your acting hero?
Well, I'll tell you how I kind of started out. With, for me, my just total first love really is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because I love the story, I love the books, I love the films, and Aragorn in that, played by Viggo Mortensen, is he's a really great actor, and he also, as kind of a model as well, he's not terribly interested in the fame and everything that came with being successful in those films. And I always respected that, and I always respected the process. I was just wholly convinced by him the whole time. Still in that film, we're talking, we've got Ian McKellen. Sir Ian McKellen's a fantastic actor, and is a great example of someone that's got a whole career's worth of stuff lined up. So yeah, there's quite a few people that I could easily pick, but they're two that kind of like my first ones that came about from watching those films. So yeah.
So what have you got lined up for the future then?
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? The acting business. You don't always know exactly what's around the corner. Obviously, you can hope certain projects will come to fruition and things like that. Because I know we have had some plans with the VML to extend into Chester and the like.
Which will happen as soon as the
future.
lockdown's over. We're going to get some new dates there, so that's going to happen. As is, I have plans for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in Chester. That will happen definitely, whether it's with yourself or another actor, depending on where your future takes you. And I'm sort of kind of, more importantly then, I've known you now for 5 years, and I've kind of watched you develop with great interest. And I've been sort of like, it's been great to sit at the sidelines and watch you grow as an actor. And I can honestly say that that's what I've witnessed. But do you believe that the VML charity has had any help along the road for you? Been any help?
Totally, 100%. I mean, just on the very basic level, you know, there's been a steady supply of scripts and shows to do, and at the end of the day, that's certainly the thing that's helped me grow myself, is just practice, essentially. You know, just being able to keep working out those acting muscles, as it were, and just really keep at it. It's helped with line learning, it's helped with character finding. You know, that whole process has been really, really useful, and obviously it's continued over, as you say, a good few years now. And
I will do until you fly the VML nest, of course.
Yeah,
which is what I hope for most people. Sorry, in the sense that particularly the younger actors, I would hope that they use VML for the experience and then move on to bigger and better things as professional actors. That's my hope. And it'd be nice to see people living the dream. The COVID-19 pandemic is a milestone in all our lives. None of us have witnessed anything like this, no matter what generation we are. How do you believe it's impacted on the performing arts, and do you think we can recover from this now the theatres are closed?
Well, obviously it's impacted the performing arts as it has impacted everyone, because as you say, theatre is closed. That particular medium right now, at least for a few weeks, probably, as some people are saying, or up to 6 months potentially, we might not have any shows in the theatre, which obviously it's a huge shame. But you know, obviously public safety being what it is, and the advice is out there, and everyone should be following it. So, you know, the sooner everyone does that, the sooner we can get back to producing theatre and stuff like that as an industry. But yeah, obviously it's having an impact. But I would say this: there's always, as long as we are people, there's always going to be room for art. So, you know, it's not like there's never going to be a lack of demand for people to go out and see a show or a film or anything about that kind of thing. You know, it's something that has lasted for thousands of years. Basically, as soon as we figured out, you know, banging rocks together, we figured out that, you know, there are things to perform and to explore. So, you know, at the end of the day, as tough as it is right at the moment, it's not going to. It's not like art isn't going to, and theatre and film and everything is not still going to be here.
I think most of us involved in it will come back with great enthusiasm. I think the audiences will trickle back somewhat, because the fear of the pandemic and being in crowded places is going to stick around for a bit longer. So people are going to be a bit wary, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But at the same time, you know, think about it this way. Anyone watching this in however long to come, just think about the fact that even if you are not a part of this industry, even if you yourself don't do any performing or acting or anything like that, what are you doing right now in this lockdown? Probably, if you're not an essential worker and you're not at work at the moment doing anything like that, you're probably sitting down watching a lot of TV. You know, I know I am. So that's what this is. You know, this is one of the times where art, and the performing arts especially, is something that really, really matters, as it always does. But
Yeah.
what was it? The Second World War, Churchill was asked to cut arts funding during obviously all of the conflict there, and he said, you know, if we do that, what are we fighting for? And that's exactly it, really. You know, we as a culture, we've made it through all of that kind of thing. We can bounce back from a temporary lockdown.
Right. My last question then is, and no one has a crystal ball, but where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I don't actually mean in reality, I mean in your head. Let's just rephrase it then. Where do you hope to see yourself in 10 years?
Well, I obviously, as we say, you know, no one's got a crystal ball, so you know, can't be certain about anything. But I would hope to be working in on some kind of script in some way, you know, be it for film or TV or theatre. I just hope to be continuing to act, basically, to explore stories and characters, and you know, to
What
be
about
able to
your
feed off it.
private life, the long suffering Beth? Do you see yourself as married?
Within 10 years,
Yeah.
I dare say so, probably.
And
I
lots of
can't
little
exactly.
lions running around.
If I said no,
Yes, because this is going out online.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry for putting you on the spot
She'll
there.
be watching this. She'll
Hello,
be
Beth.
watching the cancer at some
Right.
point, and then I
Ryan
won't hear the end of it.
McDonald, thank you very much for this. This has been really, really interesting. I feel like I've gotten to know you a bit better through this. So let's just leave it there. And yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely, great to be here. Thank you.